Hello, everyone. Just a quick one for the people watching on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify and you're watching the video, you'll notice there's no video in this episode. We've been experiencing some technical difficulties. Simply for this, just for this episode, we have fixed it, we have worked with it, and future episodes will have videos. Everything will be back to normal again. So sit back and listen. I can't say sit back and watch and enjoy because you can't see anything, but enjoy the episode, and then we will see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to Fresh Start episode 7. Um, Today's episode is short and sweet. It might not be short and sweet, but getting to the point. We're talking about why Christianity, and on that, I will just pass the question over to Leanne to start it off with us.
Hello. So this is take 2 of Why Christianity. So today I had a discussion with Brandon and with Sean now, saying that if we want to have a deep conversation of Christianity, you're going to have to bring other religion in to say why not other religion. But to go into depth on that, you really need to do your homework and you need to try and get it across without, I don't want to use the word offend, but you don't want to offend other people. You have to have your facts. So today we're just going to have a discussion on why Christianity for us, and why we chose Christianity. And like Sean, you just mentioned before that, your mom told you about it. And I think that's most Christians when you get raised in a Christian household, you said, this is Jesus, you follow him, you go to church, you do your thing, all that. But you have to get to a point where you make that decision for yourself. Why am I following Christ? And because at the end of the day, salvation is through him, but it's a personal relationship. At the end of the day, I can't get you to heaven. I can tell you about Jesus, but you have to make that decision, and salvation is only through him. So for me, the question why Christianity, it all comes down to the resurrection of Jesus. So if I read the Old Testament, you hear about the Messiah that's going to come and all of that, and you just imagine how they must have felt. But then you get the New Testament, you get Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all 4 of them giving you that witnessed. 2 of them were disciples and they walked with Jesus, and the other 2 were witnesses, and they're all writing about the same thing. You can't tell me that out of the 4, not one of them isn't true, and then you get Paul that persecuted the church, and then he became a Christian after that, and he wrote most of the letters in the New Testament. So for me, that's why I choose Christianity. But if you also look at history about it, so we were not there, but we were also not there with Hitler, and we believe that Hitler lived and he did all the things he did. The same with Jesus. You have everyone talking about him and mentioning everything about him. You can't tell me that also can't be true, and then you get a lot of people saying that, okay, he was God, he was the Son of God. Okay, fine, they believe that. Then they say, okay, he was crucified, but was he actually dead? And then if you think that he wasn't dead, you actually like the Roman soldiers, you actually like giving them a slap in the face, because they made sure you were dead. And if you were not dead, they gave you a period of time. And if it didn't happen that time, they'll break your legs, because eventually you'll suffocate. And they actually came to a point where it was proven, and they said Jesus was dead on the cross, and do not break his legs, because by the time they speared his side, water came out of, and that was the water obviously in his lungs, and blood, and that means you are dead. So there's proven cases that he was dead on the cross, and then people say, okay, but his body was removed out of the tomb. And they're saying, how can you say that if that tomb was never been used before? That was the first time someone laid there. They had Roman guards guarding the tomb. And then they're saying, if you look at then the two Marys got to the tomb and Jesus was there, and now they're saying in the Hebrew time, a woman's opinion or
Testimony or
testament, it wasn't counted worthy of, so how can we believe 2 women didn't see it? So I think everyone and all atheists try so hard to prove that it's not true. Like if you look at The Case for Christ, that's a very, very good movie to go watch. It's about Lee Strobel. He was an atheist, and he was one of those people that said he wasn't dead on the cross, and his body was removed, and then he actually came to a point where he could not prove that it wasn't true anymore, and he turned to a Christian, and he's very well known in the Christian community.
Yeah, this is true story.
And so yeah, it's based on the true story, yeah. And then some people say it was mass hallucination, and I'm like, guys, 500 people saw Jesus after his death. Not all of them can say, oh no, we all just hallucinated that he was there. And then even one of his disciples, Thomas, he even died and said, no, God, let me see your hands and your feet. And when he saw that, and Jesus said to him, touch it, feel it. And he was like, oh, and then he came to believe that was true. So I think, listen to my English.
I think it's true. I think it's true.
So I think that's for me, and obviously I've had an encounter with the Holy Spirit, so I believe that we serve a living God. He, out of all of them, he's the only living one. So I don't need a living one, but you guys get me. So yeah, this is a very serious topic. As you can see, he's not even smiling.
I'm just trying to focus.
He's trying to keep his face the
Yes.
same so that when you guys lag, then it looks the same when it comes back.
I
Yeah.
actually want to read something that I just saw. My English is not going to run away with me. So this was actually something cool that says the credible evidence of Jesus' death and resurrection. So this guy is a non-Christian philosopher of religion, Anthony Flew. Flew. The evidence for the resurrection is better than for claimed miracles in any other religion. It's outstandingly different in quality and quantity. For me, for someone that doesn't believe, or a non-Christian philosopher, that was something cool. Just to put it out there. Okay, that's your turn now.
Well, I think everything obviously you said, I agree with. And then there was also something where, we're also watching at the moment, we're also watching a YouTube series investigating Jesus, where it actually takes you through the account of Luke, reading through the letters that Luke actually wrote. And there he explains that Luke is a doctor. So he wasn't one of the disciples. He was actually a doctor, a scholar or whatever, a well-learned man. And he basically also there argues that why would Luke try and write a letter on the account of Jesus, what happened in his life, what he did on his death, on his resurrection, and try to preserve that letter and try to get it out to as many people as possible. He is a doctor, he's not going to do anything of that. So I think on that, it also sort of proves why would someone go through all of that effort, through that length, to try and get that story out, to try and preserve these letters as far as possible. And when I also was reading about Jesus's life, there was actually, because people can then say no, but he wasn't alive, whatever. But then there were actually two non-Christian historians that in their investigations, so there was one Jewish one and one Roman historian, that actually the Jewish guy actually just tried to investigate Judaism. And in there, he actually makes claims where he actually speaks of Jesus that was alive in that period. So, and this is all happening in accounts where in the time of Jesus. So also, the Roman historian also wrote about Jesus being alive at that stage, and both of them pointed then to where Jesus was actually um, crucified on Pilate's command, basically, and spoke of his death, his crucifixion. And they are non-Christian, so they didn't have to report on Jesus. And I think the one was actually in a sort of a negative way, where I think they said that Jesus is the so-called Messiah. So they actually spoke of him in their like investigations. And there was also an argument where, like King Arthur, where investigations were done, or King Arthur's existence was spoken of only like 500 years or whatever after he existed. So there's no proof that he actually lived in the period that he lived. Um, folk tales and that, they got to know that, okay, King Arthur somewhere lived. Where in Jesus's case, they actually found evidence of him in the time where they claimed that he was alive. So it's not even that it's after the fact that people just made up stories about it, which then also proves that Jesus was a real man in that time. And I mean, if they speak of Jesus in the way everything happened, that then already accounts for what the guys in the Gospels wrote. And I mean, if that is true, then everything in the Old Testament must be true,
Sure.
because that they prophesied about Jesus' life and that he will be coming and dying and resurrected. So then for me, that then proves that that is true. Then everything after the fact must also be true. And I think that is where it snapped for me that we are actually worshiping a true God that is alive. It's not some tale. And I think it's also important to remember that the Bible wasn't a Bible from like the start. There wasn't like a book that, oh, people just got it and it was, there's a Bible. It is actually letters and eyewitness accounts that were actually preserved, manuscripts and stuff that they found in history, and they brought it all together and then translated it, and then that became the Bible as we know it. But I mean, that was written by so many different authors over so many different years, so many different countries. And I mean, it all just comes together and it all speaks of one universal story. Old Testament, New Testament, all just comes together. I mean, that must be divinely written. Even if you look at all the references in the Bible,
Hey,
I
stop
mean,
stealing my words, man.
I leave that for you. But I mean, that for me was just a mind blowing thing to realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine is a lot more simple, I think, because I think mine is like how most people would feel if you start your journey like as a Christian and all those things. So yes, everything you've said. Obviously, I've also done my Bible study and I've also seen all these things, and that is amazing. And like the cross references thing to me is the fact that with the 40 authors over 1,500 years, and like they all were in separate like different places, and no one actually met each other in like and read their scripts and read their pieces. And there is in the whole Bible there's 63,779 cross references, but not one contradiction, which to me, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how good of a writer you are. I can't write, but you really need to be a good writer so to manage that. And from a normal perspective for me, because like I said, it's hard for me, this topic, to give an answer like you guys, where it like motivates people to figure this out and to see, okay, oh, they are talking and like everything they're saying is the truth, and it is wow. For me, it's the thing of just experiencing God though. I
Yes.
grew up a Christian because my mom said, you're a Christian, we're going to church, and that's it. I know RGS because that's where I've been my whole life.
AFM.
So yes, that one. So it's just your whole life, you know he's there, and you have this, okay, so that I know this, and if you tell me like, oh, don't preach to me, but in the back of your mind, when you need someone and you like very low, you and you don't want to go to family, it's for me, it's a thing like I always went to God for some reason. So something must be there, because somehow when I go to him, I feel better about the situation. Everything gets better. Everything, even now, while I'm a Christian, I spoke to Brandon today, where I feel like I'm failing. Like this last past weeks was terrible for me, and speaking to him, just again, you get that God just comes through someone else, or he comes to you when you need him, when you're like so low, and you can't tell me that's just me feeling happy because, oh, my brother spoke to me and he said to me things that I already knew, but I just had to hear it from someone else. And from a little bit of a different perspective. And the day that I changed, everything changed for me. I have never had that experience. I've had joy in my life, I've had love, I've had everything in my life, but never in my life have I had something like that in that moment when God came to me and said, okay, listen, it's done, you are mine now, let's move on from here. And I
Yeah, there's a
think
different.
no,
Sorry.
you can carry on. That's fine.
I wanted to say about the joy. There's a difference in a joy, and then there's a difference in a joy in the Lord.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think when you
us.
realize that, then you realize, okay, this
You
is
know, and
this
the
is right.
peace and the happiness people talk about. You always
Yes.
listen to the stuff and they're like, I
Mm.
had this peace and happiness. Like, I've had peace and happiness. What does that mean? But
Yeah,
it's complete. You'll know. As soon as
it's
that
a piece
hits
that
you,
you can't
it's
understand, and we actually spoke about it today. It's a piece that's beyond.
yeah. So then once that gets to you, and like if you want to argue, if you're the person that wants to argue and come with your scriptures and how you took it out of context and you want to tell me that you know more, by all means do that if you want to. I'm not going to change. I know what I believe, and I know Christianity is the one, the only, the true religion. And for me, the thing is, do yourself a favor and test it. Don't test God. No, don't go out and say, oh, I want to see a miracle to see if you're real. Don't do that. But go read the Bible, focus on this, try and actually be a Christian. It's very hard. It's not just an easy, oh, I'm a Christian, let's carry on.
No one said
It's
it's going to be easy.
terrible. It's honestly, it's so hard to do it, but it's rewarding at the same time, because that moment, little breakthroughs, little like me saying, like speaking to my brother, that little thing he said just hits you after climbing a mountain of stairs, almost dying, realizing, listen, downward was easy, it was so nice, but when I got to the top, it was terrible. But when I sat there, the wind that hit me, never felt a breeze like that. And that's the same thing. It's those little
I'm getting
victories.
emotional for him.
Yeah, it's so try it.
It's definitely the Holy Spirit that makes you cry, because
Mm.
this body doesn't cry as much. And now,
That and the
like,
dust.
everyone-
It's that and the dust.
yeah, that's it.
So yeah, try it. Try be a Christian, a proper Christian, and then come back to me and tell me that it's not true, that he doesn't exist and he's not the
That's
true
just
God.
my phone for it.
No, it's
Just leave
fine.
it.
Now everyone can hear you
So
laughing into your iPhone.
I wanted to say something. So the reason I didn't use any scriptures for this or anything, I was speaking from my heart, and we obviously say John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, Paul, all of that. There are a lot of scriptures, and I think we will get back to this. I think we'll have a part two where we can actually have scriptures and we can bring other religion in, like I said later, Nana. But I think also whoever's listening to this, if you are from any denomination, okay,
Yeah.
meaning in the Christian community. So Saturday, I actually went to a women conference, and the lady said the funny thing is that if you get a Muslim church here, or what, a Muslim mosque here, what do you call it, mosque,
Mosque.
and you get one in India, 99% they would be exactly the same. There won't be any difference. But then you go every other corner, there's a Christian church, but everyone interprets things different.
Mm.
So my point is, what I'm trying to make is, at the end of the day, the foundation is Jesus Christ, the resurrection of Jesus. He is the Son of God. He died on the cross for our sins, and he rose from the dead. That is basically what this is about. And the Holy Spirit came, and he is our helper and our friend, and he's here for us. So I think that's just, understand this point. We are not going into now the NGL, the RGS, or this. We're going to the foundation. That if this is not your foundation, I don't know if you have the right foundation, if I can say it like that. So yeah, but we will have a part two on this one, I think, just to give a bit more info and do some homework on this, and then get some other believers on here to understand why they understand things they do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I
Okay.
think we'll end it there before we start going over,
Yes.
and then we start
We
again.
start bringing
We
anything.
start mansplaining everything to everyone.
Yeah.
So you guys are frozen, so I'm gonna stick on that smile. I'll end it there. Oops. Anyway, I'll take the full screen for myself for this outro. Thank you guys for watching it. We appreciate everyone that watches, everyone that shares, likes, everything. We appreciate the feedback that we get. Obviously, the feedback and stuff is mostly for us to to know that we doing it right, in the sense of, for you guys, you understand what we're doing and what the aim is. No, I want this for myself. Get off of my screen now. But anyway, so like it, share it, comment, do all those great things, and then we will see you in the next episode.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.